Mr Speaker.
Question number 3, Denis O'Rourke.
To the member in charge of the Land Transfer, Foreign Ownership of Land Register Amendment Bill, does he believe the Land Transfer, Foreign Ownership of Land Register Amendment Bill breaches the Bill of Rights, as the Attorney-General contends?
Are you right, Honourable Winston Peters?
That is a marvellous question. The Attorney-General has perfected the ultra-crepidarian art. I know you'd say what, because you've got to be educated to understand this. His arguments are bloviated, bolded.
Order. I have a point of order, the Honourable Jerry Brownlee.
Mr Speaker, that was a very unnecessary comment from Mr Peters. He was asked if he could clarify what he was saying because he's mumbling.
Order. If the member's having difficulty hearing, order.
It's an age thing.
If the member's having difficulty hearing, then I suggest he moves closer for this length of this question, so we can clearly decipher. I must say, I am finding it a little difficult myself, but I'm putting down to the background noise from some interjection.
Yes.
I invite the member, because we've now lost the continuity, to re-ask the question.
Mr Speaker.
The Attorney-General has perfected the ultra-crepidarian art. His arguments are bloviated balderdash of the first order. How could foreign owners and buyers, providing their name, country of origin and value of land purchased in a publicly accessible database, breach privacy, when anyone can pay a fee to the foreign owners of QV and get most of that information for themselves, as any practical lawyer knowing anything about property law would know very well.
Answer to a conclusion. Supplementary question, Denis O'Rourke.
Hold on.
Order. We just need the question. Order. We just need the question first. Supplementary question, Denis O'Rourke. Order. Mr Bridges. Supplementary question, Denis O'Rourke.
This will stump him.
Order. And I'm doing my best. Order. Member resume his seat. I'm doing my best to maintain order so the member can ask his question. It certainly doesn't help when he starts his question that way. Stand and ask the supplementary question, or I will be moving on. Supplementary question, Denis O'Rourke.
How have other jurisdictions successfully introduced registers without a Bill of Rights issue emerging?
Good question. Right Honourable Winston Peters.
Now, that is a wonderful question. And it's better, though, directed to our own self-appointed Lord Denis, or the Blackstone of the Antipodes. A basic tenet of our legal system is rights and responsibilities. If a foreign national is granted the right to own land here, then they would have the responsibility of being on this register. You'd think a cumber ground like... Bit heavy for myself. You'd think a cumber ground like Minister Finlayson would understand that.
And that concludes questions for oral answer.